there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we are here with I think they're pretty cool topics that we've chosen this week. They're really different. It's really different for me, what I've chosen, than I usually do. So.
Mine is fairly different as well. I'm pretty excited for mine. Robin, what are you going to be covering this week?
I'm going to be doing sinkholes.
Sinkholes, which are scary, without a doubt. Natural disaster-ish, depending on how big they are. So, for sure. I'm going to be covering hacked devices. So, I'm really excited to get to it.
Is that the title that you've chosen?
Okay. I listed out all the different things I considered for my title before I got to hacked devices. But we'll get to that when it's my turn, which I don't think it is quite yet, because you're going to go first, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go first.
All right, so I guess I'll let you start off this final episode in September, the September to remember. Strap on, folks. Here we go.
All right, so I was chatting with our friend just today, the Snarked. I'm sure you folks, if you've joined us for our live streams or things like that, he is one of our really good friends, and we were having a conversation when the concept of sinking buildings came up, and it immediately triggered me. Sinkholes and sinking buildings legitimately freak me out. The idea of just the ground could give way and you could fall into it. It really freaks me out. And there are more than a couple sinkhole horror stories out there.
Yeah, you were sending me pictures that were just horrific, so I'm kind of excited to hear what the stories are behind them.
Yeah, there are even entire sinking buildings that just fall into the ground. I was actually surprised at how many there have been, because you don't hear about it in the news a lot, but it does happen a lot.
As a kid growing up, I was under the impression that quicksand was going to be a lot more prevalent in my life, since it seemed to appear in all forms of media, whether it was cartoons, TV, series, movies. Quicksand always seemed to be around in the 80s and early 90s. So for
grown-up quicksand.
Yeah, this is grown-up quicksand, exactly. So I'm really excited to hear what's been going on since I last got updated on sinkholes / quicksand. So
yeah, I think growing up, the only one I'd ever heard of was stuff happening in Florida. Some sinkholes that happened in Florida because of limestone giving way or something like that. But I'm going to tell you folks about a few of the ones that I came across. I'm sure I'll do another sinkhole episode if you guys do like this one or anything like that. But yeah.
She was sending me pictures and they were getting progressively larger, and I just messaged her back, "Nice hole." And she was like, "Oh my God, I hate you."
All right. So the first one that I'm going to cover is in this town called Picker, Oklahoma. I think, it's Picher. I was contemplating, how do I say it? I should have watched a news video, is what I should have done, but I did not because I'm dumb. But this town was established by the mining industry, and there are a lot of towns out there that were created just for that specific purpose. What is that one from When Calls the Heart?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm very proud of myself for not knowing that.
Oh, my God. It's Hart Valley or
Lametown.
something?
I think it's called Lametown. Bonerville? Yeah.
Anyway, it's actually named after the Picker Lead Company, or Pitcher Lead Company. Massive deposits of lead and zinc were found in the area in 1913, which is, when you think about it, it's not that long ago.
I don't know, I had a 19-year-old today tell me the 90s were the long ago, so.
Those were not the long ago. The idea that the 90s were, it
was in a different millennia. I'll give you that.
But it wasn't that long ago.
It was the 90s were still going on 21 years ago. So technically 20 years ago.
I was alive doing stuff. So
yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Also, just for clarification's sake, their exact words were, the 90s were the long ago. I was born in 2001 and I'm an adult. And I said, "You're 19. That's what we 35-year-olds call adult-ish. Also, I have t-shirts that are older than you that are still in good shape." Which is 100% true, by the way.
It's really not that long ago. Anyway, the fact that I'm saying 1913 is not that long ago, it really isn't. When was our country established?
1776.
That's a long time. 1913 is not that long ago. All right, so the finding of these massive deposits led to a big mining boom in the entire area, not just this town. The land belonged to the indigenous Quapaw tribes, And they had no intention of leasing it for drilling purposes to these people. Unfortunately for them, the mining companies pressured the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which, by the way, is a totally politically incorrect name.
Yeah.
Like, I was just so offended that... Anyway, they pressured these people into signing the leases on their behalf, on these people's behalf. So they had no control over it anymore. It's like, they have the land now, they can do whatever they want, whatever. The only thing left for the miners to do now was to get to it and start mining. And so the town was born on stupid, inappropriately leased land.
Interesting. Disgusting, but interesting.
The town was actually the largest producer of zinc and lead in the area and contributed to over 50% of the minerals used in World War I.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
I had no idea that was a thing. That's such a crazy fact to me that this small town contributed over 50%. World War I was a big undertaking. 50% of the minerals used. That's crazy. Anyway, that's my little brain exploding when I read that. As with many mining towns, it took over the entire area. The whole... They were going to mine and mine and mine until there was nothing left.
Until they tapped it dry.
Yeah. Inevitably, they damaged the entire environment surrounding the mines. So what they started doing was piling up what they called chat. So they started building up these chat piles. And these piles started just showing up all over the countryside because everybody was mining.
What's chat?
And I'm glad you asked because we'll get into it. Okay, so in case you were wondering...
Is this like AIM?
No.
Is this before AIM? We've been watching Pen 15, which has been such a
Pen 15 on Hulu. Oh my goodness. It's just like all this childhood trauma.
If someone said, I want to mix... like nostalgia from 7th grade with trauma from 7th grade and base a comedy show off that. It's exactly what that show is. And I'll be honest, it's one of the best shows I've seen in a really long time.
Really?
It's so fucking good. Absolutely.
It's hilarious, and I just feel for the characters, and there's so much trauma where I'm like, oh god, I don't want to live this again.
I know, like you get flashbacks watching it of horrible things that have happened, but it's just a wonderful show.
Speaking of horrible things that have happened. All right, so in case you were wondering, chat piles are piles of mining waste. And it's like rock and stone and different types of just minerals and things like that.
Dumps the miners took when they couldn't take a break.
Ew. But it's like stuff that's rejected during the mining process.
Gotcha.
And we'll post a picture to Facebook and Instagram later so that you folks can kind of see that these big white or pale piles of this chat stuff, these patches, they were all over. And this picture, you could literally see these piles from outer space.
Wow.
Is
it because it's a Google Maps picture that shows the piles that still exist?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I sent you the picture. So you can, it's all over. You can see them from satellite. Okay, maybe not from space, from satellite.
I mean, satellites are in space, so that counts.
Oh my god, whatever. You can see them.
I'm just saying
from
that the
sky.
picture shows that they're still there.
Yeah.
Because
they're
obviously this wasn't Google Maps in 1913
no.
showing these
They're
things.
still there to this day.
Right.
And that's how over the top all of this mining really was. They just kind of just chucked everything anywhere. And these piles took over the entire town. It was all over the place. Another little like knowledge nugget for you is that chat is poisonous. This stuff, okay. AIM was poisonous.
I was going to
too.
say it can be. It depends on who you're talking to.
But this stuff, these piles of this material is poisonous. And though it is poisonous, it's been used to assist in traction during like winter snow and stuff like that. Like they use it as gravel, pretty much.
Wow. So
you can use it as gravel, or you can use it as construction aggregate. So you can use it in making roads or cement or things like that. I assume once you put it into the ground or into a project like that, when you're not inhaling it anymore, it's different.
Can it still get into your water supply, though?
The water supply in the area's already pretty fucked.
So no big deal.
But I guess...
It's just kind of like how we had asbestos and no one knew, so no one really cared at the time, but it's like, yeah, let's just use this shit to keep us warm. And then later on we're like, oh, it causes cancer. So
this stuff is kind of, I guess it's kind of recycling in a way, you know? I don't know.
That's just a really weird way to think of it that way.
Mining came to an end in 1967, over 50 years after it began. So they were mining this area for over 50 years.
I'm just trying to get over that recycling comment. That would be like if there's an asbestos removal company that also owned a fucking cotton candy company, and they're like, it's recycling, we're just selling it to kids, no big deal.
You use what you can get.
That's fucked up.
Anyway, so what also ended when mining ended was the pumping out of water from the mines. And there are an estimated 14,000 abandoned mine shafts in the area.
That's a lot of shaft.
Yep, it's a lot of shafts. This amount of mining, understandably, resulted in incredibly unstable ground. Because when you're burrowing underground, are you making fun of how I just said that?
I literally didn't say
you
a
are
word.
Smirking over there to yourself. Okay. The burrowing underground that much, making a whole bunch of tunnels, is going to affect the stability of everything. I mean, you watch movies and TV and things like that all the time where people go into these tunnels. It's like, oh, it's dangerous, and then it collapses. It affects the ground above it when that happens.
What goes up must come down.
Anyway, so unstable ground. And then rain comes in, it contaminates the water in the rivers and the ponds and even the well water. So all this water comes in, washes all this metal and mineral and stuff like that. And these are poisonous heavy metals that we should not be drinking. The water turned orange with how much metal and stuff was running into it.
That's fucking crazy.
Kids swimming in pools would come home with acidic burns. That's how much of this chat and stuff was in the air. You know what I mean? On top of the contaminated water, the wind was just blowing all these metals into the lungs of the residents that lived in the area. And it's just so crazy that these piles are still there. So, extra knowledge nug, heavy metals, it can poison you. Heavy metal poisoning causes irreversible neurological damage and learning disabilities.
This episode is rich with McKnowledge nugs.
Yeah,
and I'm sure lots of you out there are very appreciative of that.
So that's why I thought this topic was really cool, because it's not just how scary it is to just fall into the ground, into a giant hole, but this is really scary. Just being poisoned by the results of freaking mining. Like, how insane is that? So because of all the mining, large areas of land would just randomly collapse into sinkholes because there's nothing supporting the land underneath anymore.
Right.
And these would be huge holes. In 2001, an 8-foot diameter sinkhole opened up downtown. Not that big. It got wider as it went deeper, but deep enough that you couldn't see the bottom. So 8 feet, not that big, but a person could definitely fall in there.
If you can't see the bottom, that's pretty friggin' deep.
In 1967, a sinkhole swallowed several houses, where luckily no one was injured. In the 70s, a motorist died after they drove past some barricades straight into a sinkhole that had taken out a portion of the street downtown.
That sucks.
They should have been paying attention. It's barricaded for a reason. Everyone should follow traffic rules and traffic signs and things like that. There's no way to tell how big a sinkhole will get. Because once it starts, you just kind of have to wait till it stops growing.
Cross your fingers and hope it doesn't destroy anything of personal value to you.
Eventually, some sinkholes do fill up with water until they look like small ponds. And these sinkholes kind of fill up with water, and then sometimes water bubbles up, from the bottom, like from underground, and fills these things, and they kind of become big toxic lakes. And
it reminds me of that episode in How I Met Your Mother, where the lake is so toxic that just like swimming in it gives what's-his-face like lesions all over his body from it.
It's awful because it's like the chemicals underground because of all the mining and stuff like that, and it's just not healthy, you know? It's crazy. In 1980, the area was finally labeled a Superfund site, and more knowledge nugs for you guys. A Superfund is a program by the EPA. Don't even know if it exists anymore, okay? It's a program by the EPA that is responsible for cleaning the nation's contaminated environmental kind of like emergency areas. So places like this town Oil spills, various natural disasters, they come in and they take care of things. But despite assistance, the magnitude of the damage wasn't entirely known until a 1996 study of blood tests showed that 34% of the town's kids had lead poisoning.
Holy shit.
And that's 16 years after it had become a Superfund site, okay? It's hard. It's like, it sounds like super fun, but it's not super fun.
I don't know where they'd get that name from.
I don't know. Despite knowing these facts, there were a number of residents who refused to leave the area. And there are people like that are just like, I was raised here, this is my home, I'm just going to stay here. In 2008...
I know it's a burning tar pit with, like, serpent lizards that are trying to kill me all the time, but I grew up here.
It's like Centralia, the town that's, like, on fire underneath, where people still live there. It's crazy.
I was born and raised in Silent Hill. Pyramid Head's the mayor. I'm not fucking leaving. Vote Pyramid Head.
I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. In 2008, a tornado did come through and decimate the area. Took down so many buildings. The chat,
like Mother Nature's just like, I also hate this place.
But then the chat, because of the tornado, carries with the wind and like affected even further area because of it.
So Poison Town poisoned other towns because it was carried by a tornado.
This whole place is just so
It's a good
crazy.
thing they didn't have stacks of sharks around, or otherwise that would have been a real disaster.
The town was denied federal aid to rebuild because it's already a shit show. There's really, nothing that they could do to fix all the mines.
Horrid. They were denied federal aid because it was like, you're too far gone.
But there's barely anyone living there. So it's like, you want to rebuild, there's no one there. You'd have to put so much money into fixing the mines and things like that, filling the ground, preventing sinkholes. I'm sure there were a whole bunch of things that they had to consider, and they're like, it really is not worth the money. Here's money to relocate. Just move away somewhere else.
Is that company still around that they can be fined for that? What I'm thinking of is like, I wonder how bad I could be at my job where it's like, it's too expensive to fix your mistake, therefore you are forgiven. Because that's kind of what it sounds like happened here.
So, from a peak population of over 14,000 residents at one point in 1926, it went down to, according to the 2010 census, 20 people.
Okay.
That
is some very stubborn people.
Yeah, in 2014, the land was returned to the Quapaw people.
That's fucked up.
Right?
That's so
what
fucked
I
up.
said. So when I read that, I was like, how the hell do they just ruin the land, make it poison to live on, and then they're like, here's your land back.
It's literally like, we know that you lived in harmony with nature and all that. We would like to return the land to you. Also, we have decimated it, and it is literally poison to live on now. You're welcome.
Trash human beings doing trash things. It's just fucked up.
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
Okay, so you can visit this town if you want to. It's a ghost town, obviously. There's only a couple buildings that are, like, pieces of it are left up.
I would strongly recommend, like, Scaryish recommends not to visit this town.
Yeah.
Riddled with, and possibly still actively developing, sinkholes.
Yeah, so a lot of areas are off limits because of sinkholes and land collapse. There are also still huge piles of chat that are just sitting there, which is poisonous. And I wouldn't even want to drive through, let alone get out of the car and check it out. It's just absolutely insane to me.
It's so horrific.
Yeah. So,
That's your first one?
That's my first one.
Cool.
That's just the first one.
How about another feel-good story?
All right, so then the next one that I'm going to cover is a big hole. Big hole. And this is
Tell me more.
This is in Diceta, Texas.
Well, it's in Texas. All the holes are bigger in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. I was just trying to remember what the slogan was for Texas. It's not all the holes are bigger in Texas.
It's
everything's bigger in
what
Texas.
The hell?
That was my bad. I apologize.
All right, so on May 7th, 2008, in Diceta, Texas, a sinkhole appeared that expanded exponentially throughout the day. It started at like 20 feet and then just got bigger and bigger and bigger. When the sinkhole appeared, it swallowed trees, telephone poles, storage tanks, oil field equipment, a tractor, and the cab of an 18-wheeler. It's fucking huge.
It is fucking huge.
That's a lot of things to get swallowed by a hole.
Wow.
No pun intended.
Isolate that sound.
You're so dumb. I hate you. Okay. No pun intended. So, the town was home to only around 1,000 people. So something like this is really a big deal.
Right.
I don't know how many people live in Vegas, but it's like probably 100 times that.
It depends on like where you look at. I think the greater Las Vegas area and like Las Vegas, like so to speak, is completely different. I've seen numbers of like 900,000 and the numbers in the millions depending on like where the border like technically is. It's like how Clark County versus... I'm not talking about this. Let's move on.
Okay, right. Anyway. Geologists believe that the cave-in was caused by the collapse of the many salt domes in the region. Salt domes, more knowledge nugs for you guys, okay? Salt domes are just big domes. They're big domes of salt. And they are important to petroleum geology. And this geology, it's like it allows for the creation of oil. It's impermeable or something like that, and that allows for the pressure and stuff like that to create oil. I don't know. It does make sense in Texas, though, because it is a big oil refinery state. So having that be there.
The most I've learned about the geology when it comes to oil creation came from the movie Who's the Man, which stars Dr. Dre and Ed Lover and Dennis Leary from the 90s about two guys from the ghetto who decide to become cops. It is stupid, irreverent, hilarious, and honestly, a really good fucking movie.
You know what's a good movie?
What's that?
Man of the House with Chevy Chase.
Sure, I'll take you. You know what's a really good movie? House Guest with Sinbad and Phil Hartman.
Oh my god, that is a good one.
Fucking loved it. I've been thinking about that movie so much lately. No idea why. I think it started because I was really hungry and I thought about the scene where he literally inhales a burger and almost chokes on it. Let's keep going now.
All right, so the hole grew to about 900 feet by 600 feet.
Holy shit.
It's huge. And 260 feet deep. That's like...
It's a big hole.
It's a big hole. I literally wrote in my script, that's a big old hole. I would hate to have been swallowed up in that. That's just absolutely insane. When it first appeared, it grew at a rate of as much as 20 feet an hour. I can't imagine standing there. Obviously, you couldn't stand there and watch it. You'd probably get swallowed by it. But just seeing the ground get eaten away, that's terrifying.
You might think the world is ending. Can you just imagine seeing that and just being like a kid? And like, why is the ground falling away? And it just keeps going and going and going. And you ask an adult, like, what's happening? And they're like,
and then
we don't know.
Then you see John Cusack running past you.
I hate you so much.
Isn't that movie called 2020 or something?
2012.
Oh, okay.
It's about the supposed apocalypse that was supposedly going to happen in 2012, even though the Mayan calendar's a circle and people didn't realize it would just recycle.
It just meant 2020. All right.
Apparently it just meant 2020. Like, we just got the math. We forgot to carry the one somewhere, so...
So, after a while, it did fill with water from adjacent swamps and things like that, and then just turned into a 6.3 acre lake.
Wow. That's a huge fucking lake.
Yeah. It's huge. In 1981, decades earlier, a smaller hole had developed on the opposite side of town, and it grew to be about 250 feet wide and 30 feet deep, which is not as big as this first hole, but pretty big. Apparently, this hole expanded from a hole that had appeared in 1969 near a saltwater disposal well on this company called Gulf Oil Corp., their property. Okay. So, this hole in 1969 developed on this oil company's land, and then in 1981 grew bigger from that first hole.
Gotcha.
It's just like, what the fuck?
Holes get bigger as they grow older. I got it.
Apparently, according to Mary McCann, the wife of the town mayor at the time of the 1981 sinkhole, it sealed itself.
Said it sealed itself?
Yes, the hole sealed itself. So
that's how it works.
Well, sometimes that's just what they do.
Nick Foles walking by and he fell into it? Because that would seal a hole
of
that
my
size.
God. Adam's all about Nick Foles right now.
I've been all about Nick Foles for a while.
Like, on Sunday, he was like, just give me a Nick Foles jersey for Christmas. You have no idea how many jerseys he has in his closet for all these players over the years, okay?
It's 4, just in case you're wondering.
Those poor Bears, man, they can never just stick with one thing.
They somehow retire. It's like they age out. Weird.
Trubisky's not aging out.
He will eventually.
He's just sat on a bench.
He looks so sad. My friend texted me after... Okay, this is sports talk. We're not going to stay on this for much longer. Like maybe 30 more seconds. But the quarterback of my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, was benched for his backup, Nick Foles, who came in and won the game. which is why I made a reference to Nick Foles having a huge dick.
Oh my God.
They showed Mitchell Trubisky, who was the starting quarterback who just got benched, sitting on the bench alone as the comeback was happening and like slowly having it dawn on him. He'll never play again because this guy came in and was successful, and he looked so sad.
The best part was the slow motion of everybody,
the team celebrating and like partying to go celebrate with someone else, and then it's just him there hanging his head. And my friend texted me and said, Mitch Trubisky looks like Ben Folds' song Fred Jones Part 2 sounds. And I was like, that is the most accurate description of anything I've ever heard.
All right, anyway, enough of the sports talk, back to holes. All right, so this new giant sinkhole formed near another saltwater disposal well, kind of like the one in 1969 that happened on that oil property. This new one, saltwater disposal well, was on the property of Deloach Vacuum Disposal, which is another company that disposes saltwater into these wells. So this town sits above a salt dome, and as I described earlier, right, it's a dome of salt. So from what I've read, it seems like salt water is separated from crude oil. And then they dispose of this salt water in wells within the salt dome, it seems like. To me, that's what it kind of seems like. If there are any petroleum engineers out there that know the answer, let us know, because I'm really curious. I love like sciencey things, and I think that'd be really cool to know.
Maybe Daniel Day-Lewis will hit us up and let us know what that's about. There Will Be Blood. He's the main character.
Oh, I don't know what that movie is.
It's about an oil tycoon.
Oh, okay.
And other things.
Okay. Daniel Day-Lewis, is he the guy like from Patsy or whatever, that movie?
I don't know what Patsy is.
Okay. It's like a really old like 70s movie or something.
He was Lincoln.
Maybe 60s.
He was the butcher in Gangs in New York. He does a movie like every three... We're not talking about this.
Okay.
We keep doing this.
Anyway,
it's about Mitchell Trubisky. No, I'm fucking with you.
Anyway, it's suspected that these saltwater wells are the reason that land kind of separates and then creates these sinkholes. And there were apparently around 15 to 20 of these wells within that hole's diameter. So They think these saltwater wells have something to do with the reason why this particular area has a bunch of sinkholes. They also nicknamed this whole incident Sinkhole de Mayo. So this last one that I'm going to tell you guys about is actually just really cool. I don't think it's at all scary. It's more on the ish side, obviously. It's just really interesting. And according to an article that came out in May of this year...
Mayo, you mean?
In Mayo. This is a new Sinkhole de Mayo. A big 8-foot deep sinkhole in Rome unveiled huge paving stones that date back to the time of Caesar.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, 8 feet, again, it's not that big as the previous ones I've mentioned, but you could probably sprain an ankle or break a leg falling 8 feet.
You could fall like completely into... Is it 8 feet in diameter or 8
deep
feet? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you could hurt yourself falling 8 feet.
Yeah.
The hole cropped up near the steps of the Roman temple near the Pantheon. I don't know if the Roman temple and the Pantheon are the same thing, but it's near the Pantheon. That's all I know.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of opened up this new archaeological marvel in this city that already has so much historical significance. I just think it's really cool.
The past will not remain buried.
Is that from a movie?
I'm sure it was some tagline somewhere.
Okay. Some horror movie or something. The stones date to around 27 BC, around 20 years before...
That's the long ago.
That is long ago. Around 20 years before Julius Caesar was assassinated. That's a long freaking time ago.
It is indeed.
They apparently had paved over these particular paving stones in the 1st century AD. That's what, year 1?
The 1st century would be
year
between
100?
Year 0 and 99.
Okay.
100 would be the 2nd century.
Okay. I just find it so interesting that I mean...
Traffic engineers were fucking things up 2 millennia ago. I'm sure this will hold up.
Okay.
This is someone else's problem way further down the timeline.
So the stones were incredibly preserved in Pozzolan, which is a type of dirt that's high in silicon dioxide, which absorbs excess moisture and prevents rot. So these stones were really, really well preserved, which is totally convenient in a historical city. They would just happen to have that, right? Whereas over here in Texas, we got friggin' melting holes and stuff like that.
We poisoned the land and now it collapses on itself. Oh, that sounds fun.
Apparently, though, sinkholes are incredibly common in Rome, which I had no idea.
Lots of parts in Italy.
Really?
Especially Venice. Like, Venice is like already kind of underwater. It's not really
I was going to say...
It's just sinking.
Yeah.
So, like, all of Venice is sinking. That's a fun topic. We should cover that.
Okay. There were 175 holes in 2018 and about 100 in 2019.
Holy shit.
That's a lot of holes.
Get it? Holy.
Oh, God, shut up.
And it was
Holy
Rome.
rusted metal Batman.
I hate you so much. It's like I made a perfect holy joke for your holes, and then it's also Rome, Vatican, all that stuff.
That's
but
good.
No, you went with holy rusted metal Batman.
I love that movie. It's
God,
so bad. It's good. Okay.
About Batman Forever for anyone who's taken score.
Okay. There were other sinkholes in Rome this year as well. There were roads that had to be closed, an apartment building that had to be evacuated. In February of 2018, there was a sinkhole near Vatican City that swallowed 7 parked cars and required the evacuation of 22 families.
Wow.
It's a lot. It seems like the sandy soil in the area having it be layered on top of old ruins has weakened the integrity of the ground. So because they just kept building on top of everything, it just kind of...
Like the past will not remain buried.
Yep. God. So the most sensitive areas are those where materials were quarried in ancient times. Why are you laughing?
Tell me more about the sensitive areas of all these holes.
Stop! Anyway, where they pulled material out of the ground before is where things kind of fall apart easier. And I just thought that the whole Rome thing was really interesting. And not because it's a sinkhole necessarily, but because these sinkholes are kind of opening up history to us.
Right.
The past will not be buried.
The past will not
remain buried. Whatever Adam said.
I will say what is frightening about having so many sinkholes open up in such a historic place is that it will also steal history away, because something like the Leaning Tower of Pisa eventually is going to fall, you know?
Yeah.
Now just imagine if something like that were to have a sinkhole open near it. It's only a matter of time before no one can go see it anymore. So,
yeah.
Get that off your bucket list when you can before those things go away.
Yeah, you got to take those pictures of you standing in front of it and like pushing it up or pushing it over or whatever.
Or you can just ask someone on the internet to Photoshop it for you so you can look like a dingleberry when they make it look hilarious.
Yes!
Yeah, those are good.
I think it'd be cute, though, to take a picture where you have like your finger pressed up against it, holding it up. That'd be cute.
That would be cute. I think everyone has done that.
So, I'm a basic...
Yeah. Okay, as long as you admit that.
All right. But those are a couple sinkholes. Let us know if you like sinkholes, and we'll cover some more.
Wow. All right. Before we move on to my topic, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. So we will see you on the other side. And we are back. So, I will say, if you learned anything from the sinkhole thing that Robin put out a bunch of McKnowledge nugs on, it's that you should probably go listen to Fred Jones Part 2 by Ben Folds. It's a really sad song, and I hope you do.
You're so stupid.
It's a wonderful song. I fucking love that song. Anyways, so this week, through the magic of what I like to call human interaction and the specific subcategory called conversation, I found an idea for a topic.
I think it's cute that we both got topics from just having conversations with our friends.
I agree. We were actually talking with friends of ours this weekend who are expecting a human child to be born very soon, and the topic of baby monitors came up. And we were discussing different things that they see their kid do through the baby monitor and how sometimes they'll do slightly creepy stuff or like just be staring at the camera in creepy ways. We found ourselves discussing incidents we had heard about, like with weird things happening with baby monitors that are kind of hacked into, and it kind of just hit me. I really need to cover creepy stories of electronics being hacked. That said, the biggest difficulty I had with this topic was naming it. Because it's not Ghost in the Machine 2, which was the first thing that popped into my head. Because it's like, no, this isn't machines acting weird on their own.
It's Man in the Machine.
These are people doing things to affect electronics. Robin suggested Man in the Machine, which I immediately had to hate simply because she suggested it, and it's a really good thing. Maybe I'll use it. Who knows? But I wanted to give you folks some of the names that I tried to go with while I was developing this
Oh
topic.
gosh, okay, go.
Hack Attack 1, since there will be multiple hack attacks. Hack to the Future. Hack the Planet, which is from the movie Hackers, but I figured a lot of you haven't seen that. Hack the Ripper. It doesn't make any sense, but it rhymes. It's Jack the Ripper. Hack of All Trades, Master of Puns, which I really fucking like. And of course, The Empire Strikes Hack. None of these make any sense. And I was like, how about we just go with Hack Devices?
I like Hack to the Future. That one's good.
Hack to the Future is really good. So I decided to go with Hack Devices. It was, and I swear to you, the last one I thought of. All the other ones came first. So, dear listeners, I present to you Hacked Devices. So to start, for those of you who have not heard of what it means to hack, like as a verb, it's a word that at this point sounds like it's lost all meaning to me because I've said it so many fucking times.
Did you ever see the anime Dot Hack?
No, I've never seen Dot Hack. I saw someone play the video game Dot Hack.
Really?
Yeah, Lee did. He wasn't too into it, but he put
2?
like 10 or 15 hours into it. I think it's PS2. Anyways, to hack basically means to take control of an electronic device through abnormal or indirect means, oftentimes while concealing that the device has been taken control of. That definition did not come from the dictionary. I actually had to make that up. The dictionary, to be specific here, dictionary.com, has a bunch of definitions about cutting or people who are bad at their jobs being called hacks.
Oh my gosh.
One entry about hacks just had a picture of Stephanie Meyer and Nicholas Sparks.
You're such a
huge
dickhead.
Burn. They're way more successful than I'll ever be. Seriously, though.
Yeah,
the
that's true.
first I remember hearing about hacking was when I was very young. And it was mostly in TV or movies that were basically having someone who was a nerd taking over something with a computer, something electronic. And like John Connor at the ATM in fucking Terminator 2 getting money to go to the arcade.
Never seen
that was
it.
Hacking. I hate you so much.
I actually have seen it. I just don't remember. I was probably like 8 years old.
Or like in Hackers, Zero Cool and pretty much everything he did in that movie.
Who's Zero Cool?
He's the main character. Or Hugh Jackman in Swordfish when he drinks the glass of wine and does a bunch of weird dancing and then apparently slams on a keyboard and says yes, 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 no, 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 because that's hacking.
What?
He builds a worm.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was like my exposure to hacking. I kind of knew what it was. I was a nerd. Like, I was on IRC back in the day. If you don't know what that is, it's because you're not a nerd and good for you. But it's like the first file sharing service. It was like AIM.
What's
but
the
you could
bank
send
that
files
sounds
through
like
it.
IRC?
I have no idea where your brain's at right now. So nowadays, people that don't know better or not very tech savvy might hear hack and think like, oh, you mean like life hack? Like those videos on Instagram.
No.
And it's not an actual appropriate use of the word. I personally find that using digital sabotage to have an ATM give you as much money as you want is way more impressive than like a soda bottle sucking up an egg yolk. But that's just me. Like, yeah, I get it. Soda bottles can do that because it has like suction or whatever, but they also have egg separators. Thanks for the life hack, Instagram. Anyways, I think people also tend to underestimate this first part of my script. It's just me going on rants. I think people also tend to underestimate just what people out there that would call themselves hackers are capable of. Like, sure, some can be benign. Total true story. Someone in Canada hacked someone in Arizona just to tell them their network wasn't secure. Very politely let them know, like, hey, I understand what I've done is illegal. I just wanted to let you know I was testing something out. I found my way into your network. You should probably use better passwords and secure your devices. The guy recorded. He's like, oh, thanks. He's like, you're welcome. And it's like, that's a nice hacker right there.
My friend, okay, not my friend. One of my classmates from high school was younger than me. He hacked into Gaia Online when Gaia Online was still a thing. And Gaia Online used to have monthly envelopes with these limited edition items for your character, like avatar clothes and stuff like that. He hacked into their website and gave himself a whole bunch of those envelopes that cost money.
People use hacking a lot of times casually in video games. They hack to win or gain some sort of advantage or acquire some sort of item.
But that's like stealing from a company, right?
Yeah, it is. But like, if you're going to do that, that's one side of hacking. Then there's the benign Canadian hackers, or the ones that have been represented in movies that we all know and love, like Matthew Broderick, who accidentally hacks the National Defense System to play games with a computer. Or Matthew Broderick, hacking his school's attendance files to reduce the number of absences he has. It was at this point in writing my script I realized Matthew Broderick really did shape a lot of you.
Is that why you
for
had
hackers
that?
in the fucking 80s.
That's why you had that commercial That Ferris Bueller commercial?
Oh, no. I thought of that and wrote it into Word. I'll get to the commercial at the end of my script.
Okay.
So, anyways, as technology has grown more sophisticated, it's no longer like DOS prompts and shit like that, like in the 80s in war games or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The skill set to take control of things has grown more sophisticated as well. Older technology has become easier to hack just because it's old systems and kind of everyone knows how to do it now. And when I was in college, I went to my advisor. She said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to write storylines for video games. She said, cool. She put me in networking. She had no idea what the fuck I wanted to do. She had no idea what to assign me to, so she gave me computer science and then networking. So one of the things I remember doing is setting up a basic network and a single layer of security in one lab. And one day, I had a partner. It was supposed to be me and two other people. One of the persons bailed, so it was just me and one other guy. So we set up a network. We put on one layer of security. And once everyone was done, she's like, okay, now get into someone else's. And that was the assignment. You can leave once you've gotten to someone else's, because you know enough about how to access a network that you know a single layer of security won't do it, and there should be ways to get in. And we got in like 10 minutes. And once you got in, you tell like, okay, I'm in their network, and then she'd come over and check it, and you could leave. And I remember it was like the only thing that I enjoyed enough that I almost didn't switch my major.
Wow.
I was like, that was really fucking cool. It was all I thought about when I was like, I'm going to change my major to journalism. Like, this was super cool, but I just don't think this is for me.
It's too hard.
It wasn't even too hard. It was just, it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be poor, so I switched my major to journalism.
No, this is so sad.
I can only imagine the sort of things that I would have learned had I stayed with that major. And some people have been doing this shit their whole life. Some people have been doing it for recreation, not even as a job, which means they're probably way better at it and way more passionate at it. And what's interesting about this is that although I have some stories that are genuinely creepy, which we're about to cover, I have no names of perpetrators. Not one. All the things you're about to hear about, no one has any fucking clue who did it. No one's ever been charged. The only things that have happened is that lawsuits have been filed against the companies who had the devices sold to these people that were then hacked. When shit like this happens, people will blame the manufacturer of the device because we kind of all just know we're never going to find out who did it. And that, in general, is kind of terrifying, not just scary-ish. So, that said, let's talk about some hacked device cases. This first story comes from November of 2019, so not that long ago. A couple in Seattle were downstairs doing what parents do. We're not parents yet, so I can only base this on what my parents would probably have been doing, so I assume that these parents were downstairs being disappointed in me. JK, LOL, I thought that was a funny joke.
Okay.
Their 3-year-old daughter, Jaden, was upstairs in her room. Suddenly, their daughter started calling out for them, asking them to come upstairs. They asked their daughter what was wrong, and she responded, quote, "The voice is talking to me." So when you hear your 3-year-old calling for help urgently, and that's the response, you're probably a little bit freaked out. Jo, who is the mom, went upstairs to see what was happening, and upon entering the room, she asked, "What's going on?" A voice came from their, I'm going to try and get this brand right, Taucoco video baby monitor, which looks like a little stuffed animal, but it's made out of plastic, and it's a baby monitor. And the voice coming from the video baby monitor said, "Jaden, I love you." Addressing their daughter by name, where they've been around long enough. Was it like a deep man's voice? It was a male voice, where they've been around long enough and have listened to enough where they knew the daughter's name. She freaked out and disabled the monitor, which I can only imagine means she smashed the fuck out of it, changed their Wi-Fi password, then called the manufacturer. A stranger had hacked into their baby monitor and used it to speak to their daughter. When they reported this, something happened. It hit social media, and it hit normal media sources, and people just assumed, oh, they must not have had a secure Wi-Fi, or there's something they did wrong, which is stupid. Saying something like that, like, oh, you must have done something wrong that allowed this to happen. And we're going to hear that multiple times. So this is not an isolated incident. The next story comes from July of 2018, and it hit the news pretty big back then. And the way long ago, 2018.
I mean, 2020 seems like a really long year so far.
After digging through a few articles describing the incident, I actually managed to find the Facebook of the person who actually had this happen to them.
Well, and that's not secure either.
The original post, they didn't have it on. They had this post public so people could read it. This is where the stories came from. So I went straight to the source and was able to locate the post from Jamie Summit, which I will now read to you. That was written by her. She's from South Carolina. This happened in 2018. This is all written from her. Quote, "I ordered this monitor off of Amazon when I saw that it was used with your Wi-Fi so you could access the video feed from your phone. when you downloaded the app that went with it. You could also have multiple people download the app so they could watch. This sounded great, especially with my sister-in-law living with us this summer. The camera itself is able to be turned 360 degrees, so it can go all the way around.
That's terrifying, okay.
And can be moved remotely from the app simply by dragging your finger across the screen. So you can rotate it so you can look around the room.
I mean, that's cool in theory, but, like, that is a lot of control.
Just wait. This afternoon, I had the app pulled up and was watching Noah sleep in the bassinet in our room. I was in the living room with the only two people who had access, or so I thought, to the monitor. Out of context, not in the story, that's her sister and her sister-in-law and her husband. All of a sudden, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that the camera was moving, and it was panning over to our bed, the exact spot that I breastfeed my son every day. Once the person watching realized I was not in the bed, he panned back over to Noah asleep in his bassinet. My heart immediately sank into my stomach.
What
I realized
creeper!
that this morning the camera was facing our bed when I left it facing our son, Noah, in his bassinet. Occasionally Kevin, that's her husband, would check in on us while at work to see how the baby was sleeping. I assumed this was the case, but Kevin informed me he had not accessed the app all day. So basically what happened here was this person was watching her sleep.
Yeah.
And this person has been watching her breastfeed. He knows where she breastfeeds at.
It's gross.
She went on to say, I feel so violated. This person has watched me day in, day out in the most personal and intimate moments with my son and I. I am supposed to be my son's protector and have failed miserably. I honestly don't ever want to go back into my own bedroom. I hesitated to share this for obvious reasons of how personal this is, but I can't imagine any of my friends having to go through this. Again, please check your security settings on your monitors as well as your Wi-Fi, and if you have this model, throw it out immediately. We called the cops and nothing can be done. Like I said, there's no perpetrators in any of these cases. Once we tried to access the app after the incident, it locked us out, leading us to believe whoever was on the other end could hear us and that we had figured out what was going on. So this person knew he was caught and locked them out so he could just maintain control for a little while longer. We have tried calling the company and the number is not in service anymore.
Oh my God!
I honestly feel like this is a terrible nightmare. They went on to say that they emailed the company after they reached out to Amazon to complain, and there was never a response. So basically, they bought something, never got a refund on this thing, had their privacy invaded, and nothing happened aside from the fact that they had to completely change the way they dealt with personal security in their home.
I think, though, when it comes to things that are put on your Wi-Fi, there's nothing that they can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it because they don't control your Wi-Fi. They can't control the devices. When you buy it, it's like, this is on Wi-Fi. We don't do anything about that. You open up your device to whatever. It's
interesting, too, because I have a few things I want to note. The first is that people on the internet were mostly supportive for the family that was involved initially. Some people were complete turd sandwiches, which is kind of par for the course when it comes to the internet.
Right.
A lot of people that were being assholes claimed it was the family's own fault for various different reasons. Shouldn't have bought that model. It's cheap. Should have had a better password on your Wi-Fi. You're probably not doing things correctly.
Your password on your Wi-Fi does not help you with hackers at all.
It's just blaming the victim, and that's complete bullshit, and that bullshit is only supported through the anonymity of the internet, which is provided to morons, which is so fucking annoying. Victim blaming in cases like this, it could literally happen to anyone. After this happened, it came out that the family on their network had a unique password that was considered strong by security standards when evaluated by professionals, and the baby monitor itself also had a password for accessing any security settings or any features. Both passwords were different from one another and completely unique and not used on any of their other accounts or social media or devices. So basically they created individual passwords for both of these things so this would not happen, and it still happened. It still got hacked. Like I mentioned, when they reached out to Amazon, they basically told them, like, here's who you can contact. You're shit out of luck. It's not our fault. So that sucks. This next one, though, is even worse, in my opinion. This comes from December of 2018, the long, long ago. Ellen and Nathan Rigney, and I swear to God I typed Eleanor Rigby multiple times when I was writing this one out, were awoken in the middle of the night. The sound that woke them? Beeping. Was it a text message? An alarm? The dreaded smoke detector beep? No. Nah, dog. It was the beeping of their baby monitor. The beeping turned into a man's voice who began swearing at them, speaking horrible words in the middle of the night to this couple. and I sincerely doubt they wondered if it was their baby, since it was the voice of an adult stranger. Their baby didn't just learn a bunch of words and just start spewing them through the monitor.
The creepy thing about that is, like, even if you have a baby monitor that's not on Wi-Fi, they can still hack into the wavelength that's on your baby monitor.
It's much more difficult, and you have to be very close to do that.
But, like, even, like, garage door openers and stuff like that,
you can capture the frequency, yeah. So let me keep going on this one, though. Okay. It's going to get a lot creepy. A lot creepier. They flipped on their lights to try and understand what was happening, and it's kind of the worst thing in the world when you're woken out of your slumber and your brain has to, like, orient itself to the waking world again, while you're also confronting something urgent or confusing or upsetting. And it is important to note that the baby monitor was linked to their Nest cameras in their home, one of which was in their child's room upstairs. The Nest camera...
Oh my god!
Stop reading ahead on my fucking script! You always do this! And then she goes, I'm not reading ahead, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
You're the worst. The Nest camera in their room kicked on, and the man told them to turn their lights back off. So imagine someone telling you, like, turn your lights off. Turn them off right now. The situation then definitely escalated because the digital assailant's next words came out, and they were, I'm going to kidnap your baby. I'm in your baby's room. So at this point, I just got cold chills thinking of, like, that situation happening. Nathan did what I think a lot of parents would do. He immediately jumped up out of bed and ran to his son's room. Like, fuck that. You're not taking my kid. When he got in there, ready to protect his child, there was no one in there but his baby. He and Ellen then immediately disabled their Wi-Fi and began taking down their cameras. They also called the cops. This one got picked up pretty big by multiple media outlets. The Washington Post got this one and reached out to Nest for information on how this could happen, and were informed that the company, quote, could not address specific cases, but urged all customers to use two-factor verification. That is something that you're going to hear a lot, again, in the future. This is pretty much the drum that Nest has been banging since this whole thing began. Nearly all, quote, nearly all of these cases would be resolved from using two-step verification. They say it for just about every one of these things that happens, all the breaches. It's basically, it's the customer's fault. They didn't do things properly. They didn't make themselves secure enough. They also say data breaches from, quote, other websites are the leading cause of Nest users being hacked, according to themselves. After the story got big enough, they decided to reset all accounts where customers had reused passwords when they were prompted to enter a new password once a data breach had happened and they were aware of it. All I know is if I have to put in a new password anywhere, it tells me, like, you can't do that. You've already used that password.
Yeah.
Nest didn't do that. It was like, oh, you want to reuse the password that's been exposed to the world? Sure. And then they finally reset it once all these things started popping off. And I will say, if your shit gets hacked, you are notified, and you just reuse the same password, it's pretty clear to everyone involved, including yourself, that you're not being safe. And not all of these involve baby monitors either. If you are so inclined, you can basically connect your entire house to turn it into a, quote, smart house. Fans, outlets, music systems, televisions, garage doors, door locks, AC and heating systems can all be combined for remote access, and those are just the ones I thought of off the top of my head. You can do them for pretty much everything in your house. It's cool when you think about it. Imagine all the things you can do from an app on your phone. Like, you can turn on your lights, you can start some music, you can do whatever you need to. Oh, did I leave the garage door open? Just check your phone. If it's open, just close it from your phone. No big deal. Unless someone else has remote access, in which case they can just open your garage door from their phone.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
So in September of 2019, one particular smart home was owned by a Samantha Westmoreland, which sounds like a made-up last name with too many four-letter words in it.
Or she sounds really, really rich.
Westmore, Westland, Moreland, Westland, I don't know. Any of those things make more sense than Westmoreland. No offense. Samantha came home from work to... I feel so bad now. Samantha came home from work to find that her home was incredibly warm. Turns out, her Nest thermostat was, for some reason, set to 90 degrees. She returned it to a normal temperature and then left it to cool, but then realized the temperature was going back up. When she noticed it had been reset to 90 degrees and mentioned it to her husband, she heard a voice coming through her Nest security camera in her kitchen.
God.
The couple did not disclose what the voice said to them, only that after speaking it started blaring, quote, vulgar music. I don't know what is considered vulgar music by this couple. I don't know. It could be something, like, equally insulting. Like, that's not rap. You know what I mean? I've heard some pretty horrible fucking music in my day.
WAP.
Oh, WAP? Yeah. Could be WAP.
Not rap. Rap is not inherently offensive. WAP. Sometimes.
WAP isn't inherently offensive either. It's basically the same song dudes have been singing for the last 30 years, but from a female perspective. In this house. It's a really good chorus. I want to get that cross-stitched on something.
No. Oh, God.
I'm sure you and my mom would appreciate that.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, look at this thing I got. It says there's some whores in this house. Anyways, I really wanted to know what the music was, but again, they did not disclose this. They then unplugged the camera, turned it to face the wall, just in case, and changed their passwords on the device and on their Wi-Fi. They still wound up having issues because this hacker was persistent. They had to call their internet service provider and have the network ID changed and their IP address reassigned so that the person would not be able to locate them and hack in.
Wow.
When contacted on the matter, Nest said that the couple, quote, had likely used a compromised password and didn't have two-factor verification set up. So they're not even investigating. They're just like, it's probably their fucking fault. We're not sure, though. They should just try these steps.
What if someone takes footage from your Nest camera, like say you're walking around naked or whatever, and then posts it on the freaking internet?
It has happened. I didn't put one in here. There was a lot of these, by the way. And one of them was, because it was super short, it was these people found out that their camera was hacked by listening to someone talking to their baby. They disconnected everything, and then someone let them know, like, hey, there's pictures of your kid from your camera on the fucking internet. And they went to a site where you could post pictures anonymously of things you found from hacked cameras. And they saw their kid on the internet.
That's some dark web shit.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking scary shit. So, what is really important to understand about each device, whether it's a Nest camera, whether it's a baby monitor, is that each device has its own little system built into it. And the best way I can put this is think of your phone. Just think of phones in general. Back before we all had a cell phone, phones did one thing. They phoned. The electronics built into a phone were all for the sole purposes of carrying sound from the receiver into an electronic signal that would be transmitted and received by another phone.
Isn't that so cool? Technology
It is to
amazing.
think about the miracle that you could talk to someone thousands of miles away, and there's literally like no lag between what you're saying and when you're saying it, except for like a split second, and you're so far away from someone.
Angels and airwaves, man.
I fucking hate you. It's a miracle, the phone. Now think about, now everyone has their own personal phone for the most part, and even the most basic of phones do extraordinary things. In fact, one of the least used functions of a phone nowadays is to phone. We use it for so many other things.
I call you like every day.
I call mine my Google machine. Everyone calls it in our house check the Google machine. It means check your phone because you can access infinite knowledge by just going to Google and figuring out what the name of that actor was from that shitty Hallmark movie. That's usually the thing I check for.
Lacey Chabert.
That's the most recent one. It was like 4 hours ago. Baby monitors, if you want to think of them from the way they used to be to the way they are now, they have also grown in sophistication when it comes to technology. They have cameras. They go 360 degrees. They have speakers, not just microphones, where you could talk to your kid or your relative or your spouse or your pet if you want to. The same baby monitors that was bought by the first couple were actually marketed with absolutely no difference in different regions with pictures of dogs on the cover saying that they were pet cams. So it really has nothing to do with how they're marketing it. They're not changing the internals. They're just changing the fucking packaging. And one of the things that you really need to understand is that to keep the price down, they basically have to use pretty basic components, pretty basic technology, and pretty basic operating systems and programs to make their devices do what they need to do. When you have things that are basic like that, they're not that secure. You have speakers, you have microphones, you have Wi-Fi connectivity, but when you keep the cost low, you're cutting corners in certain areas, and that area has certainly been security.
There's like a documentary on Netflix or Hulu or something right now called The Social Dilemma or something.
Yeah, Social Dilemma. We haven't watched it yet. So we've been watching Pen 15.
Well,
I don't regret it.
A lot of the creators of all these programs and all these computer whatevers and social networks, things like that, they're like, I don't let my kids do any of that stuff. I limit all their exposure to it, and that they're only allowed like XYZ. And I think it's crazy that they develop all this stuff and they're like, I'm not letting my own kids do it.
When they see what it becomes, they're just like, yeah, this is a bit dangerous. Here's the thing. Home security systems and baby monitors that are able to do these things seem fantastic. We all understand that. It's crazy to think that you have this phone that you can just look at and see cameras all around your house and feel secure and feel safe. But you have to understand that when these components are used to construct a device that can do these things, and the software is on the low end of the spectrum, anyone else can see that shit too. You know? It doesn't become a home security system as it becomes a home surveillance system. These are the types of things that people literally train on, these operating systems, these low-end components, so they can start learning how to access things. They may not be in a baby monitor form, but when you learn something, like if you learn how to access an engine on a car, and that engine is put into different types and makes and models of cars, you can work on all those cars. It's the same way when you have components in a piece of electronics. There are people out there who know how to do these things, and it basically comes down to whether or not they want to do them. A security analytics team, and I read this and it blew my mind, studied baby monitors back in like 2016 that were on the market, and identified that they, quote, there were pretty much across the board some pretty easy to exploit vulnerabilities, things that have already been solved in mainstream computing. So it's like you have components in there that everyone can hack into. Mm-hmm. Everyone can hack into. We already know how to prevent it, and we do prevent it on mainstream computing. But in baby monitors, nope. And even now, they haven't fixed that.
It's because they have to keep the prices down.
They do two-factor verification. That's all they do. Their director of research for this analytics team, named Todd Beardsley, which is an awesome last name, stated,
I wonder
quote,
if the beard matches the name.
I hate you. Stated, quote, hackers that I know and hang out with, which just sounds like he's referring to himself at this point, but hackers that I know and hang out with refer to these devices as, quote, hacking on easy mode, or, quote, hacking like it's 1998. So this is just like fucking fish in a barrel for these people. Now, ways to protect yourself are very important to cover at the end of this topic, because some of you may be freaked out, especially people that might have newborns, which is kind of why I want to cover this, because we have a lot of friends having kids, and I'm like, please have secure devices, please have two-step verification, please have secure networks, because that's all you can really do. Something like two-factor verification is incredibly helpful. It requires you to input a second password that is randomly generated, and it's a string of 6 numbers typically.
You know what's annoying is I can't get into my Nintendo account right now because it requires two-factor verification, and I don't know when I set that up, but it won't let me log in.
And you've been locked out.
I'm so annoyed.
The two-step verification, those 6 numbers that are constantly changing, they change every 30 seconds. After those 30 seconds, those 6 numbers are no longer good. And the thing that's receiving it knows that. It knows what those numbers are, so if you're not fast enough to type it in, you're not going to get in. There's plenty of time to put in 6 numbers on your end. It's not a lot of time to hack and figure out what those 6 numbers could be. But even that is not unbreakable. And who knows how long it'll be before someone figures out how to hack those particular things. Rather than go through the door, people typically just try and go around it, you know? Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary to think that people can get through that too. But they can. Most people won't put in the effort to do that. Frequently changing your passwords is also really important too. And I know anyone who works in an office or any place where you punch in, using a password will get very annoyed. I've had to change my password every 30 days at some jobs. Most of the time it's every 90 days, but it really, really does help. If you think of it in terms of security, it's worth it. I don't know.
I have to change mine so many times, I don't even remember.
Yeah. I don't know how many extra R's you can put into Boner Patrol 69, but if you stay at an employer long enough, you will find out. It's not that hard to change your password, is all I'm saying. I had
my password as like Big Mama's house at some point, and they made me change my password the same day.
That's pretty dumb. They have a good IT department there. For lots of people that work in the tech industry, Robin was already alluding to this, their advice is really straightforward. Just don't buy these things. If you want a device, make sure it is expensive because it will have advanced security features, and look into those things. You can typically tell whether or not it is going to have advanced security features based off the price tag. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And if you're going to buy one of these things, you have to accept the fact that it still doesn't mean it's 100% secure, because nothing is. Some of the smartest, most technological savvy people in the world won't have any of these things in their house. They don't have smart houses. The people that create things that can be put into a smart house will not have things in a smart house. We talked about this with one of our friends, and like the highest tech guys in the security field will always state that they don't have any smart devices in their home. The closest thing they get to it is a printer. And if the printer makes the wrong sound, they'll shoot it. And it's like an ongoing joke, but it's also based in some truth, because people understand how easy it is to get into some of these things, and they don't want anything to do with them. Now, when I moved out of my parents' house when I was 19, my dad told me to always make sure to lock my doors and make sure I had all my valuable stuff hidden anyways. And his reasoning was very simple. If someone wants to get into my house, they're going to get in. That's what he's always told me my entire life. You can lock your doors, you can bolt your doors, you can have your security system, whatever you want. If someone wants in, they're going to get in. Every level of deterrent you put between them and getting into your house will help. But in the end, it might not even matter. They could break a window, they could kick in the door. If they want to take something and the alarm's going off, they're still going to do it anyways. And that's how I take things when it comes to smart devices. We have an Alexa in our house. I've mentioned this during the Ghost of the Machine episode. I am completely aware that Amazon and Google have made deals with like federal governmental agencies where they can basically give any audio they have recorded to the police if they want to.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm like, I guess I'm still going to keep it in my house is because I feel like it'll be preventative rather than spying on me.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't really have a whole lot to hide unless someone really wants to know what the next episode of Scaryish is going to be, in which case you can just message me and I'll tell you, you know. But if something were to go down and it was recorded on my Alexa, I would definitely want someone to be able to access that, which is where that idea comes from. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm very aware that I have 2 listening devices in my home that are always hearing what I have to say, you know? Mm-hmm. They're always listening for me to say, okay, Google, or hey, Alexa, or hey, Bixby, or any of that shit, which probably just triggered a bunch of devices, because that's how easy it is. They're always listening. So you have to take preventative measures that'll act as a deterrent, but you have to be realistic about these things and take it into consideration when making any sort of purchase, because any sort of convenience it provides you, it provides to someone else as long as they're smart enough. So in the process of looking these things up, I decided to Google stuff on the biggest hacks that have happened in my lifetime. And some of the things I found are absolutely terrifying. Not PlayStation accounts, like nuclear silos.
What?
And hacker wars is going to be a topic I'm going to cover after Extraterrestrial October, because some of the things that I found are absolutely horrifying. And it's like Ghost of the Machines 2 / Hacker Wars, where it was basically digital warfare between countries, and then the weapon that was used wound up evolving because it was like a self-replicating virus and spread everywhere. And these things have gone terribly wrong on a very large scale. All I'm thinking of is
war games now.
It is so similar to war games. We're going to cover it in a different topic, but these ones are just localized to your baby monitor or your Nest or your Ring or whatever the case may be. And those were scary enough, so look forward to the first week of November because that's what I have in store. I will say, halfway through researching this episode, I looked on my phone, started scrolling through Instagram, and there was a fucking commercial for a security camera. And it was a commercial that was like a parody of John Hughes' movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where they steal the dad's car. But there's a Ring camera in the garage, and the person watching
is Cameron.
Is the actor who played Cameron.
It's the same car. It's that same garage.
Same thing. Same everything, but he tells him, like, don't even think about it. And he's like, been there, done that. And then he closes the garage from his phone. I was like, it's so fucking creepy that something was listening to me or registering my searches, that it went from 5 minutes ago, me Googling something, to there being an ad for what I was Googling.
Metadata.
That, like, automatically played on my Instagram. So yeah, we live in a digital age, and it can be kind of terrifying.
I checked out a bunch of YouTube videos for Overtone, that hair coloring stuff. Now Facebook, every other ad is Overtone.
And I will say my fucking Google phone, or my phone just had its Google app activated by me saying that. So,
really?
Yeah, totally did. So if that triggered anything for you folks, I sincerely apologize, but I just want to illustrate that point. So that was Hacked Devices number 1.
Nice.
So I'm sure there'll be another one. If you folks have any stories about any weird shit that's happened to you,
any creepy stuff that's happened, yeah, let us know,
totally
because
want to hear it.
I totally want to hear about any creepy device things that have happened, or if people have hacked your baby cameras, your baby monitors, things like that.
I had my PlayStation account get hacked
a
couple months ago. They spent $260 out of my account in a matter of minutes. That was super infuriating. So it's like that. The shit just happens, man. And you know, it's like, no one hacks into your account and then spends money on Grand Theft Auto and fucking Dragon Ball Z Budokai.
It's the shit they waste the money on. That's
you know
so
they're a kid.
Funny.
That's a kid who figured out how to hack into my account and buy games so he could play on my account for a full night before I got it back.
Someone hacked my Apple account like 15 years ago. And maybe less than that, like 12 years ago. Doesn't matter. But they bought the stupidest apps that I was like, why would you spend money on that? That's so... I would have spent it on way better things. You're an idiot. You know what I mean?
It's just scary to think about. And to think about how prevalent these things are and how frequently they can happen. I was like, let me give you some horrifying examples. So hopefully I haven't triggered anyone too hard. But yeah, that, my friends, is Hacked Devices. I will say, if you have any stories like that, or any supernatural, paranormal, sinkhole, true crime stories.
Have you fallen into a sinkhole?
Let us know. You can email storytime@scaryish.com. You can go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. That form comes directly to us, or you can hit us up on any of our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Instagram is @scarishpodcast, and Twitter is @scarishpod. We hope to hear from you. It's been really fun seeing all the folks that have come over, from Jessica Braun, shout out, letting us know, like, I'm here because of her. It's like, that's super awesome. Thank you so much for checking us out.
Thank you guys so much.
Again, I don't know if she's listening to this, but thank you one more time for the shout out. It's been really cool to see numbers go up and new people come into the community who have all been incredibly wonderful. It speaks volumes to the community that she has, that people have come over and been so kind, which really matches our community very well. So that's been super cool, and just want to say thank you one more time. So, Robin, for any folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. Those are monthly donations. There's a whole bunch of different tiers. That's how you can get ad-free episodes. You guys don't want to hear ads? Head on over there. It's $1, and you get ad-free episodes. It's great. And then you can also go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/scaryish-podcast, and those are one-time donations. All your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup, and we've been able to keep growing, and it's great, and it's thanks to all of you. It's so awesome.
Indeed. I just updated our production value on our stream slightly, but it is significant. Like, I think it has an impact. I'm very happy with it.
He's very excited about
it. It is very small. If you watch the episodes every Tuesday, which we do record live at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time at youtube.com/scaryish or twitch.tv/scaryish-podcast, you will notice the change. I'm sure of it. There's no way you won't. And it's just nice to have, like, incremental increases in production. Like, we started out in the same room we're in right now with way shittier mics and a tripod that had a GoPro that we could afford.
It was taped to it.
Duct taped to it. Now we have a amateur camera. I would never call it a professional camera on that same tripod in a much more professional manner. But it does record and broadcast in
our
much better resolution.
Our microphones are not $10 anymore.
We have really nice microphones now, thanks to folks. And now we have a little bit more production value in the stream. And every time we figure out a way that we can inject any sort of quality or additional content into the show, we do so. And we have the opportunity to do that because of you wonderful folks. So thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate it. And that's all the rambling I'm going to do for tonight. It's 3 a.m. and this episode needs to get edited. So, Robin, go ahead and sign us off.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.